For evicting everyone after my sister claimed my house and demanded I leave? My mom's call came in on a Tuesday afternoon, just as I was packing clothes for another work trip. I recognized the number and honestly, I was this close to letting it go to voicemail, but something nagged at me inside and I answered. "Nicole, honey, how are you?" She had that sweet voice she always used when she wanted to ask me for something. I squeezed the cell phone between my shoulder and ear while folding a blouse. "Good, Mom. Just preparing for a trip to Milwaukee tomorrow." "What's up?" There was a tiny pause, the typical one before dropping the news. "Well, I have something to tell you. Your sister is already here. Brianna and Tyler came back from Austin yesterday." I froze with the blouse halfway folded. Brianna and I had barely spoken since the issue when Grandma Claire's inheritance was settled 4 years ago. Still stung. "Oh, really?" I said, feigning calm. I thought Tyler's business over there was going great. They always bragged at family dinners. My mom's voice got lower, more careful. "Well, it did not turn out as they hoped. They say they had problems with some partners and that it was best to come back and start over." My tone came out dry. I already knew where this was going. My mom took a deep breath, as if gathering courage for what came next. "And well, sweetie, they are staying with us for now, but you know how the apartment is and your stepdad's knees are getting worse. With them in the room, Frank does not even have space to do his physical therapy exercises." I closed my eyes and counted slowly to 5. I knew this script by heart. "Mom," I said with a very controlled voice, "are you asking me what I think you are asking me?" There was a short silence and then she blurted it out. "It is just that the house Grandma Claire left you has 3 bedrooms and you are all alone in that big house. It would just be for a little while until they find jobs and get settled." My throat closed up. Grandma Claire's house was my refuge, my place. The only thing truly mine after spending my childhood feeling like a guest in my own family. My dad died when I was 5. A year and a half later, my mom married Frank, and then Brianna was born 6 years younger than me, his daughter. Overnight, everything revolved around her. I became the one who was just there, the one who should not make noise, the one who had to be understanding. "How long is a little while?" I asked, clenching my teeth. "Not long, honey. A month, 2 at the most. Tyler already has some very promising interviews." I did not believe her, but I did not have the energy to fight over the phone either. "Fine," I said finally. "They can stay in the blue bedroom, but only while they find a place to live. It is not for them to settle in." The emotion in my mom's voice was immediate. "I knew you would understand. Thank you, honey, really." I hung up and sat on the edge of the bed. I stared at the open suitcase and suddenly uninvited memories flooded in. Grandma Claire, my dad's mom, never tried to replace anyone. She did not speak ill of my mom, she did not fill my head with things, she was just there. She listened to me, she saw me. Weekends at her house were my escape, while at my house everything was Brianna. At Grandma Claire's I could breathe. Brianna as a child would enter my room without knocking, put on my clothes, grab my things, and when I told her no, she would throw a fit. My mom and Frank always defended her. "She is a little girl, Nicole. Do not be so hard on her." I learned to swallow my anger since I was little. College was my first taste of freedom. I did not go to dorms or anything like that, but I did move out of the house. I rented a room near the school with other people, and for the first time my things were where I left them. Nobody intruded. Nobody demanded that I be understanding all the time. And right in my senior year, Grandma Claire passed away. I broke. It hurt as if the floor had been ripped out from under me. But in the midst of that grief, she left me an unexpected gift. She left me her house and some savings that were not a fortune, but enough so I could start my life without being financially strapped. Brianna's reaction was quick, with that confidence that always came naturally to her. "This is not fair. We have to sell the house and divide the money." I remember my own voice perfectly, trembling with anger. "Grandma Claire was not your grandmother." "But we are family," she insisted, turning to look at my mom as if the verdict depended on her. "Mom, tell her." And my mom, Denise, true to her way of not getting involved, carefully suggested that I consider sharing with my sister. Frank agreed with a serious nod, as if it were the reasonable thing to do. I said no. And that crack that already existed opened completely. After that, we barely spoke except for the bare minimum at family dinners. I went to Brianna's wedding when she was 20, and I had to watch her marry Tyler, a man 10 years older, the kind who moves comfortably with money and connections. A few months later they moved to Austin for the business, and I secretly felt relieved. The further, the better. And now they were back. And in no time they were going to be inside my house, an old 3-bedroom house in the south suburbs of Chicago, the kind you hardly see anymore. I finished packing for Milwaukee with a bitter feeling, as if the air had gotten heavy. My job as a sales rep for a medical supply company had me traveling often, and I usually liked it. I went to hospitals, met people, closed deals, but this time I saw it differently. Those trips were going to be my escape from what Brianna would inevitably bring. 1 week later, 4 large suitcases arrived, plus bags and designer things that did not match the narrative of starting from scratch. Brianna hugged me with manufactured excitement, the kind that does not reach the eyes. Tyler gave me a firm handshake, as if he were closing a deal. "Thanks for this, Nicole," he said. "Very decent of you." "Come in," I answered, not knowing what else to say. I took them to the blue bedroom. I helped them put things away more out of inertia than pleasure. As I hung up Brianna's 3rd coat, I could not help but think that selling just one of those would pay the rent for a simple apartment for a month. But there I was, settling them in as if nothing was wrong. That night we ordered takeout for dinner, and the 3 of us sat at the table. Tyler cleared his throat as if making an announcement. "I have some good contacts," he said. "Tomorrow I am meeting a college buddy who is in banking. Let us see if something comes up in finance." "That is great," I said. And for the first time I meant it. Hopefully. Brianna started playing with her fork as if the conversation bored her. "I am not going to look for a job yet," she blurted out. "Honestly, I am more of a homebody. I like having everything nice, taking care of those things." I raised my eyebrows. "Perfect," I told her. "Then it will work out great for you to take care of the house while you are here. Cleaning, cooking, laundry. The usual." Brianna's face dropped in a second. "Oh no," she said quickly. "That is not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" "Well, I do like it, but in my own house," she replied, offended. "Here I am a guest." I could not help but let it slip softly, with all the irony I had bottled up. "Ah there. I mean, you like being a homebody when it suits you." Brianna threw me a sharp look. "Do not twist my words," she said, her tone rising. "I am just getting settled." Tyler stepped in like someone trying to put out a fire. All right, we will see how we organize things," he said. And he changed the subject. I let it go, but inside I already knew. The arrangement was going to turn out like always. Some things never change. 2 weeks in, I already had a routine. I got up early, left before they woke up, and came back as late as I could. It was not a life, but at least it saved me hours of being around Brianna. And unsurprisingly, she had already picked up her old habits. Every night I would come home to find dishes in the sink, clothes thrown around the living room, the kitchen looking like a hurricane had hit it, and not a trace of dinner. Brianna would be on the couch with her phone or watching reality shows, comfortably settled in as if it were her house. "Oh, you are here," she would say without turning around. "Can you make something to eat? I am starving." The first few times I stayed quiet. I took a breath and cooked for the 3 of us. By the 2nd week, my patience was on a tightrope. One night, after seeing the same mess again, I stared at her. "Brianna," I said, "what did you do today?" She shrugged as if I had asked her what color the sky was. "I went to see Mom and Frank, and then I met up with Ashley from high school. Did you know she has 2 kids now? Her life is so boring." I stood there with the grocery bag in my hand. "And you did not have a chance to run the vacuum or put in a load of laundry, anything?" Brianna let out a short laugh, like she could not believe I was saying it. "Oh, Nicole, really, you are so intense," she told me. "I have been busy reconnecting. And besides, it is your house. Should not you want to keep it nice?" My face burned. I turned around before saying something I would regret. Tyler at least seemed to be trying. He left early, always in a shirt and jacket, and came back with stories of interviews and networking meetings. I did not know if he was really looking for a job or if he was just avoiding the house, but at least he did not ask me to make him dinner. Until one day my boss called me with news that sounded like salvation at that moment. "Nicole," he said, "I need you to go to Indianapolis for a week. There is a big hospital we want to close a deal with, and I want you there." I practically hugged the phone. "Of course," I replied with a joy that was hard to hide. Before hanging up, I sent Brianna a quick text saying my boss had offered to let me stay an extra day, and that I would probably be back Sunday night. It was not a complete lie, he did offer it, I just had not decided yet. That night, as I pulled my suitcase out again, I made my conditions clear to Brianna. "I am going away for a week," I told her. "And I do not want any parties in my house while I am gone. I do not want overnight guests. I do not want to come back to a mess." Brianna rolled her eyes. "So exaggerated." "Yes, Mom," she mocked. "Anything else? Do not breathe your air. Do not sit on your sacred furniture." Tyler, who was in the dining room, looked up. "I have a second interview next week," he said, as if that fixed everything. "Let us see if we can get out of here soon." "I hope so," I answered without smiling. I left early the next day with that sticky feeling that something was going to go wrong. And yet, the trip to Indianapolis turned out to be a blessing. Not only did it give me a break from the tension, but I also closed a major deal with a hospital that was going to leave us a very nice commission. My boss was thrilled. "Excellent, Nicole," he told me on our last call. "You are getting a bonus on top of your commission. If you want, take an extra day and rest." I could have taken it, but I preferred to go back as soon as possible, without telling them about the change of plans. Part of me wanted to believe that Brianna had listened for once, that I would arrive and find my house in peace, and maybe good news about Tyler's job. I flew back and arrived at the airport on Sunday afternoon. I requested a ride through the app, and with light traffic that day, I went straight home. From the outside, everything looked normal, no music, no weird lights. I calmed down a bit, opened the door, brought my suitcase in, and something immediately jumped out at me. There were 2 large suitcases and a huge bag that I did not recognize, sitting next to the stairs. I froze for a second, as if my brain refused to put the whole picture together. And then I heard laughter in the living room. It was not just Brianna and Tyler. There were other voices, the kind that sound familiar even if they are not in your daily life. I dropped the suitcase right there and walked straight toward the sound. The scene stopped me dead in my tracks. Brianna and Tyler were sitting in my living room with cups of coffee across from an older couple I recognized instantly. Tyler's parents, Gary and Barbara. I had seen them a couple of times, always from a distance, always with that vibe of people who judge in silence. The 4 of them turned to look at me in surprise. "Nicole," Brianna said in a voice that was too high-pitched. "We were not expecting you until later." "I see," I answered, keeping my eyes on the suitcases in the hallway. "What is going on here?" Brianna plastered a fake smile on her face. "You remember Gary and Barbara?" she said as if I were the forgetful one. "They came to visit us for a while. Is not that nice?" I opened my mouth to state the obvious, that this was my house and I had clearly said no guests. But Brianna jumped up, grabbed my arm and practically dragged me to the kitchen. "Give us a minute," she yelled over her shoulder before closing the kitchen door. As soon as it shut, I lowered my voice but put all my anger into it. "Have you lost your mind?" I told her. "I told you I did not want visitors." Brianna clasped her hands together as if begging. I know, she whispered. "But I need you to play along just a little bit, just a tiny bit. 2 weeks tops." I let out a laugh of disbelief. "No, they leave tomorrow." "Please," she said, and her eyes watered. "Listen to me, I told them this house is mine." Tyler went along with it, and since they believe that, they have treated me so much better. I stared at her, not understanding what she was talking about. Brianna swallowed hard. After the business failed, they got cold with me. Like they blamed me. They said I distracted Tyler, whatever. But now that they think we have this house, they calm down. It is like they finally respect me. I felt the blood drain from my face. "You are sick," I told her. "You are really sick. I am not going along with this." Brianna grabbed my hands desperately. "I swear I will do everything," she said quickly. "I will cook, clean, wash, everything I have not done. Just pretend you are staying with me because you have problems at work. Just that, please, Nicole." And she finished with the most absurd phrase she could have chosen. I never ask you for anything. I looked at her. It was ridiculous. It was complete madness. But there was her face, that mix of urgency and fear of looking bad. The habit of giving in to avoid fights took over. The one I have carried since I was a little girl. And I felt it with a rage that burned me. 2 weeks, I said finally. Not 1 day more. And you better keep your word about the house. Brianna's shoulders dropped as if a sack had been taken off her. Thank you, she said, repeating it like a prayer. Thank you, thank you. You will not regret it. We went back to the living room. Brianna smiled like a television host and set the stage. This is Nicole, my sister, she said. She is going to stay with us for a while because there were some issues at her job, and she is getting back on her feet. Gary nodded with a serious face, a look of pity. Barbara looked me up and down with that expression that says nothing and everything at the same time. That night we ate takeout from a local restaurant, but Brianna swore she had prepared it. She plated it as if it were homemade and even left the kitchen a disaster as if she had been cooking for hours. Gary and Barbara took over the conversation, explaining in great detail how their son's business had gone under because of abusive partners and unfair competition. Not once did they imply that Tyler might have any responsibility. When we finished, Brianna gave me another sweet smile, the kind that set off all my alarms. Nicole, she said, could you help me with the dishes while I chat with Gary and Barbara? Thanks, sis, she added with the sweetest voice in the world. And then I understood. They had played me for a fool. I stood there washing dishes while from the sink, I watched Brianna laugh and play the charmer with her in-laws in my living room. And I felt that pit in my stomach that warns you have gotten into something that is going to cost you. I was not wrong. A week into that farce, I was already the one doing everything, the cook, the one cleaning up, the one enduring the looks and comments while they were happy. Every morning I went to work while the rest stayed asleep or barely got up without rushing. Tyler, who used to at least pretend to look for a job, did not even do that anymore. He did not even put on a jacket to go out. He became his parents' tour guide. He took them out to see the city, to eat, to visit places. They were gone all day. Brianna did her little act at night. She cooked for her in-laws, which actually meant ordering delivery through an app, transferring it to plates, and serving it as if it were her creation. Sometimes she even messed up the kitchen on purpose to make it look like she had prepared a feast since early morning. And always when they finished eating came the phrase, Nicole, can you help leave the kitchen clean? She said it with Gary and Barbara watching as if it were a test. And then she would add, well, since you are staying with us, it is only fair that you chip in. I would clench my jaw and wash, feeling Barbara's gaze piercing my back. She loved dropping comments near me, loud enough for me to hear, but as if they were not meant for me. How generous of Brianna, she would say, helping her sister out in a tough time. That speaks very highly of her. Or worse. In this family we have always taught that you have to support those who are falling behind. I am glad to see Tyler has that value too. I wanted to scream, but the same old fear, the fear of making a scene and looking like the bad guy, kept me stiff. Until one afternoon, already exhausted, I caught up with Brianna in the laundry room. This has to end, I told her in a low voice but trembling with anger. You promised you would do the chores, and I am doing everything myself, while you play hostess in my house. Brianna had the decency to lower her gaze. I know, she muttered. I am sorry. When are they leaving? I asked. It has been more than a week. Brianna bit her lip. It is just that Barbara has very high expectations, she said. And I do not want her to think that I cannot. Well, let her think whatever she wants, I snapped. I cannot handle this. I am going to talk to Tyler. I promise, she said. But her face said something else. It said, nothing is going to change. That night the monthly bills arrived. Electricity, water, gas, internet. I opened them and felt the air leave my lungs. They had almost doubled. Where I used to pay around $250, now they were over $500 combined. With 5 people, the hot water running all day, lights on, water running like it was a hotel, plus some electric space heaters because Barbara could not stand the cold. I went downstairs with the papers in my hand and found Brianna alone in the kitchen. Look, I told her, throwing the bills on the table. Do you see this? Everything doubled. You have to pay at least half. Brianna checked them and her eyes widened. Nicole, I cannot, she said. We do not have money right now. That is not my problem, I replied out of patience. You guys are here using everything all day while I work. I am not covering this alone. Brianna put her hand to her chest as if I were the cruel one. Do not be like that, she said with a tearful voice. We are family. Cannot you just help us out this one time? And right then something snapped inside me. It did not come out nice anymore, it did not come out soft. No, I told her. I am sick of this. If you cannot contribute money, then keep your promise and take care of the house. But you do not even do that. I am feeling used, Brianna, like always. I did not realize how loud I had spoken until I heard the door open. Tyler walked in with Gary and Barbara, carrying bags and talking as if they were back from a stroll. Gary stopped dead. What is going on? He asked, frowning. Brianna's face changed in a second. Where she was upset, suddenly she was a victim. Nicole does not want to pay her share of the bills, she said in a tiny, wounded voice. I froze. She flipped the story on me without blinking. Barbara took a step forward. Young lady, she said seriously, I do not understand your attitude. Your sister opened her home to you in a difficult time, and this is how you repay her, refusing to contribute? That is not what. Gary cut in. Truthfully, since we arrived, we have noticed a lack of gratitude, he blurted out. Brianna keeps this house beautiful, cooks, takes care of things, and you just come and go as if you own the place. I felt my ears ringing. The sheer thought, the absurdity of them scolding me for taking advantage of Brianna in my own house, turned my stomach. Without another word, I grabbed the bills and went up to my room. I locked the door. I stood there for a moment, breathing hard. Downstairs I could hear voices, murmurs, words rising and falling. I imagined Brianna crying, Barbara comforting her, Gary acting outraged. All in my living room, in my house, at my table with my life. When hunger forced me to go downstairs, the atmosphere was pure ice. Gary and Barbara barely looked at me. Brianna avoided my eyes. Tyler was the only one who looked uncomfortable, fiddling with his napkin, trying to bring up a topic and failing. In the middle of that tension, Barbara cleared her throat. Brianna, honey, she said in that motherly voice that scolds without yelling. My father always taught me that in a home there must be honesty and respect. Of course, Mrs. Barbara, Brianna replied, docile. That is why we feel we have to say something, Barbara continued, shooting a direct look at me. We do not think having your sister here is working out. She is taking advantage of your hospitality, and her attitude is affecting the peace of your home. I almost choked on my water. Gary nodded firmly. You have been more than generous. But there comes a point where you have to put your family first, he said, turning to look at Tyler. Right, son? Tyler muttered something incomprehensible. Without looking up from her plate, Barbara went on as if it were already decided. We believe it is best for Nicole to find another place soon. And then they looked at Brianna, waiting for her answer. I watched her with a strange curiosity, as if I truly wanted to know if for once she was going to tell the truth, if she was going to spit it out. This house belongs to Nicole. Brianna hesitated. I saw her eyes dart between her in-laws and me, as if weighing what benefited her most. Then she sat up straight, took a deep breath and looked at me. Nicole, she said with a firmness I did not recognize in her. I think it is best if you start packing. I need you to leave in 2 weeks. The silence that followed was so heavy you could hear the clock ticking louder. Gary and Barbara looked satisfied. Tyler turned to look at Brianna with his mouth half open, as if he could not believe what she just said. Brianna held my gaze, and in her eyes was a silent plea. Play along, she was telling me without words. One last time. But something inside me never went back into place. It was as if a rope tying me down had finally snapped. I stood up slowly, left the napkin on the table, my table, Grandma Claire's table. I looked around at these people who had invaded my house like a hotel. No, I said quietly. I do not think I will. The reaction was immediate. Barbara's jaw dropped. Gary turned red with indignation. Excuse me. Barbara spat. You do not get to decide that, young lady. I leaned over the table and placed my palms firmly on the wood. Actually, yes, I said calmly. Here what I say goes. Everyone has 48 hours to pack and leave. And when I say everyone, I mean everyone. Brianna's face crumbled. Nicole, please, she whispered. Can we talk in private? I did not answer her anymore. I was done with private talks. Brianna, the lies are over. I turned to Gary and Barbara. There is something you need to know. I let Brianna and Tyler stay here for a while because they said they needed it. But this house is mine. I inherited it. I pay for everything. Barbara looked at me as if I were a liar. Brianna, she said in a low, dangerous voice. Is that true? Brianna went pale, as if her blood pressure had dropped. I can explain, she stammered. Gary locked eyes with Tyler. You told us this was your house, he said slowly, each word like a punch. You showed us around like you owned it. Tyler finally spoke. Dad, we were trying not to look bad. He let out, defeated. After the business failed, we did not want you to know how bad things were. What followed was chaos. Barbara started raising her voice, reprimanding Tyler and Brianna. Gary joined in even harsher. Brianna cried. She tried to justify herself. She said it was for the sake of her marriage, that she did not want them to look down on her. Tyler held his head in his hands and stayed quiet, as if he did not even have the energy to defend himself anymore. I watched them from my spot with a strange calm. It was not joy, it was more like that exhaustion that goes beyond being tired until I had had enough. Enough, I said loudly, slamming my hand on the table hard enough to make the plates rattle. They fell silent. Honestly, I continued, I do not care about your drama. I want you out of my house. Barbara stood up, gathering what little dignity she had left, like someone refusing to look defeated. We are leaving right now, she said. We will not stay another minute with lies in the middle. Then she turned to Tyler and Brianna with a look of ice. And do not even think about running to us after this embarrassment. Gary did not say much more. He grabbed one of the suitcases, Barbara took the other, and they called for a ride. They left with just the essentials that very night. The door closed with a sharp, definitive thud. As soon as they disappeared, Brianna exploded. How could you do this to me? She screamed, her face red, trembling. You ruined everything. They will never forgive us. I looked at her without moving. I did not tell you to lie, I told her quietly. You lied to them and to me. Brianna stepped closer, hands clenched. I was desperate, she said, as if that justified everything. Their approval means everything to Tyler. Without them, we have nothing. That is not my business, I replied, my voice steady now. You have 48 hours. And seriously, I do not want any more visitors, any more lies, not one more day of this. Brianna clenched her fists. You have always been jealous of me, she spat with venom. Always, just because Grandma Claire left you this house. Stung but not like before. This time it gave me clarity. She left me this house because she was my grandmother, I told her. Not yours. And because I was the one who was with her, the one who visited her, the one who took care of her, the one who sat and listened to her. You only showed up when it suited you. That is not true, she shrieked. Yes, it is, I replied. And it is also true that you have not changed a bit since we were kids. You still think everything caters to you, that the rules do not apply to you, that everyone else has to bend over backwards so you look good. Brianna tried to say something, but I was not having it anymore. We are done, Brianna, I said. Get out of my house. I turned around and went up the stairs. I entered my room and locked the door. Outside you could still hear her yelling, but it sounded distant, as if there were finally a real wall between her chaos and me. My hands were shaking, adrenaline in my bones, and yet I felt calm. For the first time in my life, I had put a stop to my sister without backing down. The next morning my cell phone rang. It was my mom. Nicole, she said without saying hello, with a mix of reproach and urgency. What is going on? Brianna called me last night crying, saying you kicked her and Tyler out, that they have nowhere to go. I sat on the bed, pinching the bridge of my nose. They can stay with you and Frank, I answered. Your apartment is not as small as you make it out to be when it suits you. That is not the point, my mom blurted out. Family helps family. You know that. A bitter laugh escaped me. Does that rule apply to Brianna too? I asked. Because she has not done anything for me since she arrived. On the contrary, she lied to her in-laws saying this house was hers. She left all the housework to me, and then tried to kick me out when they suggested it. My mom sighed as if she were exhausted before even starting. Your sister told me it was all a misunderstanding, she let out, trying to soften it. That you were very harsh and she just wanted there to be peace. No, Mom, there was no misunderstanding, I replied, firmer now. Listen to me for once without rushing to defend her. They stayed here saying it was temporary. They invited people without asking my permission. Brianna pretended to be the owner of the house, and when I asked them to help with the bills, she refused and blamed me in front of everyone. My mom stayed quiet for a moment, as if for the first time she had to think. Well, I am sure she did not mean to. I do not care what she meant. I cut her off. I have been more than generous and they used me. They have 48 hours. And Mom, honestly, if all you are going to do is justify her like always, I would rather you did not call me. I am tired of being the responsible one who never gets any consideration. I hung up before she could respond. I was surprised at how good it felt. Not pretty, not happy, just clean. Like taking a breath without something stuck in my throat. Brianna and Tyler left before the deadline. They started moving their things that same day, and by the next afternoon, there was nothing left of them here. They did not say goodbye, they just left with their suitcases and their silence. In the following weeks, I heard through mutual acquaintances that Brianna was no longer speaking to her in-laws. That Barbara and Gary told her she was not welcome in their house after the deception. My mom called me several times. The voicemails changed over time. First, she demanded that I apologize. Then she uncomfortably tried to propose a lunch to fix things. I deleted them all. 3 months later, my house became my house again. The bills went back to normal. The peace stopped feeling like something borrowed. My work trips became part of my life again, not my hiding place. I painted the blue bedroom, moved furniture, and turned it into a home office for when I worked from home, a space that was not for anyone else but for me. Sometimes at sunset, I sit on the patio bench that Grandma Claire loved so much. I watch the sun go down over the street, how the noise of the neighborhood quiets down, and I feel a peace I had not known before. This house is not just a house, it is my refuge, my inheritance, my home. And finally, it is solely mine again. Comment. Hey everyone. Sharing this kind of story always gets me thinking about how important our own peace really is. I truly believe we all need to learn how to set healthy boundaries without feeling guilty. Being kind and helpful is wonderful, but it should never mean letting others take advantage of your generosity. Standing up for yourself shows real self-respect and inner strength. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose your own well-being over keeping the peace at any cost. Taking responsibility for your personal space and happiness often leads to genuine healing. I hope this encourages you to reflect on the relationships in your life and where you might need to set firmer limits. Your home should feel like your safe haven, and you have every right to protect that peace. Learning to value your own comfort and mental space is a powerful act of self-love. Let me know in the comments what this story brought up for you. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.